Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Dave Miller, president here at MAM, and I have with me Rincy, who's our project manager. And we're excited to share some ideas on best practices, best ideas for setting up a MAM system and doing it right the first time. Let me turn it over to Rincy, and she's going to present some of our experience and things to do. Thanks so much.
Thank you, David. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Chalkless Talk session. Topic for today's session is best practices in setting up a MAM system, a topic that is becoming increasingly critical in today's content-driven world. My name is Rincy Abraham, and I'm the project manager at MAM. Let's look into the topics covered in today's session. I'll start with a quick introduction to media asset management and why is it more than just a storage. Next, we'll cover the key deployment challenges which most organizations face, followed by the benefits of a properly implemented MAM system. The core of today's session will be the 6 best practices for a successful MAM setup. And then we'll look at the common pitfalls to avoid so you don't repeat the mistakes which others have made. Finally, we'll wrap up with a summary and key takeaways and then leave some time for question and answers in the end. So let's get started. Let's start by understanding what media asset management really means and why it is the backbone of modern media technology. Today, we are not creating content, we are managing an explosion of digital assets. But the truth is, data only becomes valuable when you find it, use it, and monetize it. While many view MAM systems simply as a storage library, in reality, its true power lies in being a workflow engine, the brain of your media ecosystem that connects every stage of content lifecycle, from ingest, transcoding, collaborative review, search, distribution, archiving, etc. Most companies think that buying a MAM system is just the finish line, and they believe that once you buy a MAM license and the software is installed, the messy folders will automatically organize themselves. But the hard truth is, a MAM is an engine and not the driver. So without any proper planning, governance, and adoption, it's just a powerful tool that's sitting idle. In my experience, most successful deployments aren't the ones with biggest budgets. They are the ones where customer takes the ownership of their workflows. So today, we aren't going to talk about buttons and features. Instead, we are going to talk about foundational readiness that is required from the customer side to make MAM setup a success. Before we dive deep into the best practices, let's talk about why MAM projects stall or fail. MAM projects don't fail because of the software, they fail because of these 5 organizational traps. One being dump and hope theory. The biggest mistake is moving the files without a plan or strategy. Many organizations just dump all the assets to the MAM system without planning metadata, structure, taxonomy, which makes the search more painful, and ultimately the system turns into a glorified hard drive. Second one is scope creep. With too many stakeholders have when too many stakeholders have conflicting or maybe multiple demands, it leads to scope creep, and the project never crosses the finish line. This leads to budget overruns, frustration, delays, etc. Therefore, it is very important to log the scope early and have a balance between the must-have and the nice-to-have features. Another one, the resistance factor. If the system has extra clicks or if it isn't intuitive and faster than their older ways of working, users simply won't use the system. So it's very important to design an intuitive workflow wherein and involving the users in getting the testing and ensuring the usability and satisfaction at their level. The knowledge gap. Lack of training often leads to a disconnect between the IT technical setup and the creative team's actual workflow. If they don't speak the same language, the implementation fails. So therefore, it's very important to bridge the gap, engage the end users during the design and testing. The decision authority. Projects stall when there's no internal expert or champion from customer side, someone who has authority to make the final call, maybe on the file naming conventions or folder structures, workflows, etc. Somebody who owns this project. So now let's look into the benefits of a proper MAM setup. A well-implemented MAM doesn't just store your media, it transforms into business asset. And here's how it does it. You get a faster content production. A well-structured MAM streamlines workflows like ingest, editing, review, and distribution, etc. Teams now spend less time hunting for files and more time creating it. It boosts teams' productivity. Everyone works from the same source of truth, and therefore the centralized access and collaboration eliminates duplication and confusion. Reduced search time. As we all know, time is money. So no more digging of through the endless folders. A smart metadata schema and search can make the finding files instant. Cut storage costs. Storage cost is reduced by removing duplicates, managing versions and archives intelligently and efficiently. Last one being improved compliance and security. Role-based access and rights management keeps content secure and compliant. In short, we can say that a proper MAM setup is a productivity engine, saving time, reducing cost, and ensuring compliance. Now let's look at the best practices. First one being defining objectives and roadmap. Don't just start with the MAM software, start with a plan. A successful MAM setup starts with clearly defined objectives, scope, and timelines. Three core documents that make this happen are statement of work that defines the scope, deliverables, and responsibilities, so there's no surprises later. A project plan which sets the milestone and timelines to keep the deployment on track. A workflow document, a visual step-by-step workflow guide which documents customers' end-to-end workflow from ingest to archiving, distribution, etc. So together, all these documents become the single source of truth for the entire implementation. Second best practice is ensuring infrastructure readiness. Once the roadmap is clear, we must address the physical and the digital environment. A MAM is a high performance engine, and therefore, if the infrastructure isn't ready, even the most expensive software will feel sluggish and unreliable. We, EMAM team, work with our system integrators, partners, or organizational IT team to ensure proper infra setup. The first point for the infra setup would be the bandwidth and latency. You need to ensure that the bandwidth or the network latency can handle the expected data load without bottlenecks. Low latency is critical for real-time applications, therefore test connectivity between key systems. Storage, access, and permission. Verify the storage systems are properly configured for scalability and speed. Implement role-based access controls to prevent unauthorized data access. Security and compliance. Infrastructure readiness means ensuring the system is secure from day one. This involves setting up firewalls, SSL certificates, and ensuring internal and external compliance standards are met. Another key best practice would be to define the roles and workflows. We've handled paperwork and infrastructure, now we focus on the people. A MAM system is only as good as users' understanding of it. To avoid workflow confusion, we must define exactly who does what and when. So defining user roles. Not all users created in in MAM are equal. User role-based access control can be used to keep the interface clean and secure. By defining these roles early, we can reduce the risk of accidental deletions and make the system much easier for the average user to navigate. Document step-by-step workflow. A well-defined workflow minimizes delays, improves collaboration across team. You can map out the entire contents life cycle from ingest, transcoding, editing, review, approval, distribution, archiving, etc. Clearly define who does what at each stage. Like editors handle ingest and editing workflow. Producers manage approval and review workflows. Another point is appoint an internal expert. Um, when you appoint an internal expert, you need to make who has an ability or who has the power to make decisions on metadata schema, taxonomy, workflows, and migration priorities, etc. This internal expert acts as a first line of support and the bridge between the users and the technical team. Now, next is plan your metadata and taxonomy earlier. Metadata is the backbone of the asset organization. So if it isn't tagged, it does not exist. So defining core metadata fields, categories, tags to ensure searchability and compliance is very important. Identify the core metadatas and make those mandatory at the point of ingest to eliminate human error. You can work smarter by auto tagging or leveraging the AI engines for speech to text, facial recognition, and object detection, etc. Logically categories. You can organize the assets into logical categories and subcategories for easy navigation. Also, if the migration is from the old system, map the old metadata to the new standards to avoid chaos during migration. Another best practice is training and adoption. You can build the most advanced system in the world, but if the users don't embrace it, the project is a failure. Adoption isn't something that happens on go live day. It is a process that starts weeks before. Therefore, it's very important to train the users on the new system and the workflows. You can conduct role-based trainings by focusing on what each role need to accomplish their daily tasks. Like editors need to know the ingest and editing workflows. Archivists should focus on the metadata and taxonomy. Admins handle permissions. You can share the quick start training videos, guides, and FAQs with users that help them address recurring questions, and this reduces the support load. You need to clearly communicate the benefits to the users, like how the new system improves efficiency, reduces pain points, and also makes their life easier. And the final one is getting a formal acceptance. Why it matters? It ensures that the solution meets business requirements and avoids disputes later. Conduct a user acceptance testing. Engage end users to validate the functionality against the real world scenario. Resolve issues before sign off. Once the testing is complete, get a formal sign off from all the stakeholders that the project goals have been met and the deliverables meet the agreed criteria. You should actually never skip this step to save time because it is critical for accountability and project closure. Once this document is signed, we officially move from implementation to maintenance and support stage. Now let's look into what are the common pitfalls to avoid. Even with the best MAM software, MAM projects can stumble if we don't watch out for these industry-wide traps. In my experience, these are the 4 areas where most failed deployments go wrong. Skipping metadata planning. Metadata is the backbone of data organization. The most frequent mistake is thinking we'll figure out the tagging later. If you don't define your metadata schema on day 1, with time your MAM becomes chaotic and hard to manage. The second one is undersizing storage and network. Many projects underestimate the future data growth and network demands. Initial sizing might seem cost effective, but it often leads to performance issues and costly upgrades later. Another one is ignoring training and change management. Many projects fail not because of technology, but because of people aren't prepared to adopt it. Therefore, ignoring training and change management creates resistance and reduces the return on investment. Final one is no scalability path. Many solutions are designed for immediate needs but fail to consider future growth. Without a scalability path, the systems become bottlenecks as the organization expands. If your setup doesn't have a path to scale, whether that's moving to cloud or adding to more users or handling 8K footages, etc., you'll find yourself doing a rip and replace far sooner than you expected. A standard setup must be elastic. So we have covered a lot in last 15 minutes. If there's one thing to take away today, it's that MAM is not a plug and play appliance. It is a reflection of your business process. To put it in a nutshell, for a successful standardized MAM setup, plan your workflows early, set up carefully from the start considering future needs, train users and monitor adoption. When you get these things right, you move from implementation to production with confidence. The goal of proper MAM setup isn't just to manage the files. It is to create a system that adds value for use and empowers your team to do the best works without any technical friction. So that's it for today. Thank you for your time. And if you have any questions, just let me know. Thank you.
Let me open up for some of the questions. If you have other questions, please put them in the chat. In any case, one of the questions, how long does it take to set up? That's really going to depend on the expectations and what's the requirement. Once the hardware is available, which in the cloud can take minutes, but may take time to order hardware. The IT setup is very straightforward. From the system, the question is what's being set up. So defining the workflows can be a very large process. If everything's all set out in advance, the workflows and the expectations, it can go very quickly because those are configurations. If that's not done in the first phase, or if it's not done at all, that's going to require a lot of work after. And then also sometimes there's phase deployments because there's customizations or training processes, et cetera. So it can take days to months, to be honest. Sometimes there's a series of phases in a setup and implementation. So it's really hard to tell. Second question is who to get help. Most of the time, Rinsey has good audio, sorry. But our team is ready to help. And we have system integrators on our website, emamsolutions.com. You can work with them. And we also sometimes work with consultants who can be helpful defining workflow processes, maybe metadata taxonomy, obviously security best practices. So, reach out, there's always help available. And let's see, and scalability is usually usually a question of more of hardware infrastructure. Cloud scalability is a key selling point for the cloud, but it can be a limitation if the servers and storage set up to run the system can't really take care of that. So it's usually not from the MAM perspective, but from an infrastructure for scalability, because we can always add more. So we can share these slides and the recording with anybody who's interested, see if there's any more questions. And we'll put the best practices, this slide deck in our documentation for future reference. And if there's no further questions, thank you much, thanks for joining us today. Thanks, Rinsey, and look forward to having you on future Chalkless Talks. Every week we chat a little bit about best practices or workflows, everything else, and reach out to us or our partners. And oh, sorry, last question is training. So there's two types of training. There's a technical training, which is a self-guided one for technical users, and then sales training we do for, well, for our system integrator reseller partners in terms of how to, excuse me, you know, and what the best practice is working with customers. And then we have customer training, which is part of our standard services we provided, because can't underscore enough that the users have to be trained in the system. So very often we train the trainer, we train the people who are going to manage the system on a regular basis, and then go from there. But we can provide additional training as needed. So we often do one technical training for the technical lead at an organization, and one for the unit admin. So it really depends on what the expectations and the needs of the customer are. But very important, again, as she said, for the success of a system is to have people trained. Otherwise, the pitfall, people will just go back to using the same old way, and then there's no governance, there's no security, there's no best practices, and everything is disorganized as it was before. So can't underscore training enough. So thanks so much for your interest today, and let us know if you need a recording or additional information. If not, thanks for your time today. Have a great day. Thanks, Rinsey. Thanks, everybody.